A connection has been established.
Welcome to a new world. Rockland World Radio. It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldRadio.com.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. You've reached the Lena Shockley Youthology Hour. We have very special guest on the show today, Mr. Phil Weiner from the Mr. Phil TV show as a co-host today, special co-host, and also co-host Mary Frost. Hi. And we will be interviewing Michele Zirkle Marcum, and she has a phenomenal book that everybody should hear about today. Would you tell us a little bit about your book today?
Absolutely. I had a house exorcism.
Wow.
And not everybody can say that. So I had a house exorcism. I also had entities that had attached to me. Yes, wow. to me, to my body. And I was not aware of that. So over a process of elimination and learning along the way, I was able to liberate myself from evil, from my house and from my body. So that's the basis of Reign No Evil. So it is my true story.
Wow.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Where does this take place?
The names and locations in the book have been changed because of the personal nature of the book. There's other family members that are a part of the story, of course, but it did take place in West Virginia. I was teaching at Point Pleasant High School, which was home of the Mothman territory. If you read the movie, Richard Gere played in. Yes, so that's where I was teaching, was in Point Pleasant, West Virginia at the time. So thereabouts in that approximate area is where this story takes place, in West Virginia.
Wow.
Yes.
All right.
That is very deep because the Mothman prophecies, it says, was a true story.
Right.
Yes.
Very true. They say that it was. I was just at the festival a few weekends ago.
Okay.
Sold a lot of books there. Actually, a gentleman that I used to teach with started that festival.
Okay.
And it's very big, very big. About 12,000 people in a weekend through that small town. Yes.
Wow.
But my story actually didn't have anything to do with the Mothman. It just happens to be that it was the same area. That I was in. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So
Right.
no Mothman in my house, but there was a demon. There was a demon. I'm not sure about what color eyes it has, but out of the whole paranormal experience that I had, and I was on Coast to Coast with George Norrie back in November because of the paranormal part of the story. But the scariest thing to this day that happened to me was I saw a demon in my mirror.
Oh,
and
gosh.
I say that totally sober.
Wow.
And I know Edgar Allan Poe things are going on here tonight, but and of course I've taught Edgar Allan Poe for years. I taught English for 20 years.
Wow.
But I saw a demon in my mirror, and it's described in there, and it absolutely was still to this day the most frightening thing that I've ever experienced. Wow. But most of the events were just kind of spooky and eerie, and eyeballs floating and things like that in the house. But the main reason that I named it Reign No Evil was because the main paranormal event, if you will, that happened to me was that water was spraying inside of my house. Now, we did not move into a haunted house.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
It was not like that. My husband and I, we'd been high school sweethearts. We were married for 22 years. We moved into a house that was literally, we lived there for 8 years, and nothing had happened. Nothing crazy, nothing spooky, not even a cabinet opening by itself, okay? Nothing.
Wow.
We were in a dysfunctional relationship, which is where I said this is very personal.
Okay.
But I felt compelled to tell the entire story, so I did. I put it in there. I put myself out there. We were in a dysfunctional marriage. I got mad one day after a fight that we'd had, and I said a prayer to God, whatever you want to think of as God as. And I said, you've got to prove to me you're real, or I'm done talking to you. And I mean, I was that angry, I was that mad, and I think that whatever, again, you want to think of as God, in your world, that entity, that higher power heard me, and he provided to me what I needed for me to understand that there is out there a world that we don't see. Right. There is a spiritual world we don't see, and I can't explain it. All I can do is share with you what happened. Okay. So 3 days later, I'm sitting on the couch with my husband. I have 2 boys. One's 12 and one's 7 at the time.
Okay.
They are 10 years older now. And water started dripping at first on my older son's head. And then before the evening was over, it sprayed across the living room. And when I say spray, you would hear it was like an invisible water hose. Someone would spray it through the through the room.
Right.
It would hit. You would see it. It was actual water. You could go and touch it, feel it. It was water.
Wow.
Okay, but you would look over to where you saw that you know it came from.
Wow.
And there was nothing, no water pipe sticking through the wall. There was no busted water pipe. There wasn't even water pipes in the living room. Okay, I mean, other than a force above. But it took several weeks of this going on. I didn't originally tie it to that prayer. Okay, I didn't go, oh, there's a spirit in the house. That's where this water's coming from. It wasn't like that at all.
Right.
It took several weeks of the water sporadically spraying, and also we started seeing many other paranormal things, like eyeballs floating in the house, hands pressed through the wall, just a lot of the demon in the mirror that I saw. So after about 2 weeks, I was given the revelation that there was a demon in the house. And at that point, we got a priest involved. And so that was that part of the story, as far as the house exorcism part of it.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was straight out of, I mean, if you want to look at that as an answer to a prayer,
Yeah.
that was straight out of, that's something you'd read in the Bible, as far
Right.
as,
Yeah.
crazy things, bushes catching on fire and
Yeah.
someone parting Moses parting the Red Sea
Right.
with a rod. I mean,
Yeah,
how many
yeah.
people say a prayer and get water spraying across their house, and all of these fantastic, and I say fantastic in that they were all striking
Yeah,
to
like-
me.
Yes.
Answers to what I needed. So that proved to me, and I am not saying it has to prove to anyone else, but
Okay.
it proved to me that there is something that I do not see that exists.
Okay.
There's other realms, there's other worlds. And then the second part of the story is that I had attachments to me, to my auric field. And I did not know that. So I went to an energy healer in Charleston, West Virginia, and I went to her because after everything had happened at the house, we had the house exorcism, we all became Catholic, things got a little better for a while with my marriage. Touch and go, but I still was not happy. Just inherently felt like something was missing. So I went to the energy lady up on the recommendation of a doctor friend of mine, and she, the lady herself is actually a homeopathic doctor and a life coach. And the second time at her place, she starts the energy work, and if you're familiar with Reiki or anything along
Yeah.
that line, okay, that's what she does, and she works with angels. And I had never been to anybody like that before. I grew up Pentecostal, so I was, I was used to seeing certain things
Yeah.
done in church and prayers
Sure.
and the hands-on healing, not quite like that.
Right.
But she started the energy on me that day. This was the second time there, and I was getting really woozy, very dizzy, and I heard these voices above me, and they were saying, you shouldn't have come here. I told you shouldn't have come here. And I mean, that was frightening, very frightening
Wow.
frightening voices. And I looked up,
It would be.
nothing was up there other than the ceiling tile, and I looked over at her, and I had a seizure at her place.
Wow.
That part of, and I understand now, was the liberation from these forces, because
Okay.
I didn't know I didn't know that they had
Right.
attached
Wow.
to me. I just was not familiar with that part of spirituality.
That's deep. That's
It was very profoundly life-changing for me, and that's why I'm telling this story. It's not just because, okay, this bizarre thing happened at my house, and it's crazy and wacky, and it is crazy and wacky, but that's not why I'm telling the story. I'm telling it because it changed my life. It truly did change my life. I became a different person after that. I've worked with the life coach, energy healer, for several years now, and just looking at a lot of things differently now. I see that we are energy, and we do go on forever, and not afraid to die. And I look at a lot of things in the world differently now. So that's pretty much the gist of it. The energy healing part of that got put in a medical journal called the Journal of Health and Human Experience. Yeah, someone asked for that because a doctor had asked for it. The doctors are seeing that the energy work, it's not just in your head.
No,
A lot of
which-
them that work with
yes,
it.
Yeah. I think a lot of it, they always thought, oh, well, you have something going on in your brain that is wired wrong or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But, I find it interesting that you wanted, especially Phil and I in particular, because I'm sensitive to those things. I have spoken to spirits, and I do read into things. I've read back into Phil's life all the way back to when he was a child and what he was like,
That's right.
and all that kind of thing. Fully understand that. The house my mother lives in is a house my great grandfather built, and it has hosts, not demons. Just family is still there.
Oh, okay.
Family is still there.
They're comfortable.
And, they're very comfortable, and I know that when I get down to my mother's house, I know when my grandmother's been around because there's a different smell to the house. I can smell, it smells exactly like it did when I used to go there when I was a child.
Amazing.
Wow. Yeah.
And I know, okay, Nana's here. And she's, making sure everything is okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's interesting to have all that, and then to be on this set now today
Right,
with you,
right.
and talking with you about this. It's not something I let everybody know.
I understand that because some things, you do have to kind of watch it. It was comforting to me though in the beginning to be
Yeah.
able to share my experience and have other people share theirs with me because it did make me feel like, I didn't ever think I was crazy. I knew that I was
Right.
fairly sane anyway. I'm the good kind of crazy. But it does make you feel better, and I think that's why
Yeah.
people, when they come to book signings and they hear me and they hear my story, they're very willing to share. And I've had many students share with me their stories of anything from, like you said, deceased pets, deceased loved ones, and also even more than that. One student had knives that was being thrown across the room. So that is more of the demonic side of it.
Yes.
And also, I understand too that I had a priest that was very willing and able to come help me with this.
Wow.
And he's from Ohio, but we live very close to Ohio, and I'm very thankful for him.
Okay.
But I realized that, it really wouldn't have taken a Catholic priest, but that's who was there for me, and I'm very thankful for that experience of having that. But many people have come up to me at the book signings and said, you are lucky to have found a priest, a Catholic priest, who was willing to come to your house when you were not Catholic, because we were not Catholic. And we became Catholic because of this.
Wow.
Wow.
But
Wow.
we went through the whole confirmation, even my ex-husband, who didn't want to have anything to do with this. Remember, he wasn't at the house when the exorcism took place. We did 2 house blessings with Father.
Okay.
The third time he came back, he brought the body of Christ with him, which is called the host, the consecrated host. We did not partake of it, and neither did he, but he brought it with him for the exorcism. And it really was probably over within 15 minutes. My dad was there. My 2 boys were present, me, and that was it for the exorcism itself. Now, many people witnessed the water spraying and other, paranormal things in the house. But I was very glad that he came,
Right.
because I've literally had people tell me we were not able to get a priest to come because we weren't Catholic. So
Right.
and I'm not Catholic anymore.
Oh, okay.
I was for about 4 years,
Okay.
and I just put that out there because I realized there was a power there, but there is with so many different people. It's not about the religion. It's
okay.
about where you are.
It's here.
Yes.
And it's in here, and that's where people can see it from you and your aura and it radiating from you.
Right.
Yes.
You
Like,
know.
I never met Mary's father, but I feel like he's with me all the time. And I feel like he's looking down on me and together with my parents, and because we met right after,
My dad was gone about a month,
yeah,
Okay.
and you want to tell about the karaoke
yeah.
experience? It's quite wild, actually. Go ahead.
Yeah, that after my show on a Friday night, which we automatically go to the karaoke in Middletown at the Holiday Inn. And this Friday, which was Friday the 13th of November, 2 years ago, I walked in there, and as soon as I got there, a minute later, Mary gets up there to sing. And I'm looking at her, I said, there's something about her that I like about her. She's so sweet and all that. And she sang Desperado. And, it just got to me. And when she finished her song, I walked up to her and I just said, beautiful job. And she just like
looked at him. I looked him in the eyes. I just threw my arms around him and hugged him. It was
Oh
like,
my goodness.
I mean, I don't know this man. This was my very, very first time ever doing karaoke.
Wow.
Now,
Wow.
I'm a singer anyway, so
Okay.
that part didn't faze me.
Okay.
But when I looked in his eyes as I was singing Desperado, I saw my father's eyes looking back at
Oh,
me,
whoa.
not
Wow.
his.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's deep.
So it was very. And we have been the best of friends ever since that night.
Wow.
We've since become family to
Okay.
each other.
Okay.
But it was very, very powerful.
Very
and,
emotional.
You know,
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
now we like to think, our parents are up there. My dad's with his parents going, look what our kids are doing now.
Yeah,
Nice.
look at us.
You know?
It's very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that when we contribute back, I mean, I know for myself, I'm doing the energy work now too,
Yeah.
with people
Nice.
and life coaching people,
Nice.
because of I saw a banner out here as I was walking around that, of course, is promoting October as being Domestic Violence Awareness
Yes.
Month.
Yes.
And that is very close to my heart because I was not in a physically abusive
Okay.
relationship.
But it
No,
can be mentally.
but it was definitely verbal, and I didn't
Okay.
see it for a while. Well, for many, many years. And I actually interviewed Patricia Evans, who she wrote a book called The Verbally Abusive Man that was actually the straw for me and it enabled me to see. And her book, The Verbally Abusive Relationship, she's an expert on this. And that book is getting ready to sell. It's almost sold 1 million copies now.
Nice.
So I interviewed her on Life Speaks, was able to get a hold of her and interview
Nice.
with her, and she's a fabulous lady, and very much that book was the straw for me to see what was going on. People can be the good guy. They
Yeah.
can be a truly good person and still have these tendencies that they don't see.
Wow.
And if they don't see it, they can't fix it. And that was the position I was in, and that's why I did leave. I left the marriage, but I do life coach ladies now too, as part
Beautiful.
of the energy
Beautiful.
healing. Thank you.
That's very
I love helping. I really do. Thank you.
What caused you to look for the book on abusiveness?
That's
and
interesting because I wasn't. I
All
was
right.
not.
So what drew you to that particular?
I was called to. I started listening to life, as I say
Yes.
on my show, Life Speaks. I started
That's
listening,
right.
and I was called to the library. And it was very common for me to peruse the section on not self-help, but on spirituality, because when all of this happened at my house, I started getting everything I could get my hands on. I started reading 90 Minutes in Heaven, 20 Minutes in Hell, or anything that had to do with a true story. I read it.
Sure.
And that same section on the bottom shelf was a big spined book called The Verbally Abusive Man. And I just went, no.
It was
and it was
put there
like,
for you.
yes. She said she's had people, Patricia Evans said she's had ladies tell her that when they went to the library, that the book has actually jumped out at that, like fell out,
So
like
she
fell
has-
out. Mine
has a
didn't.
very
amazing.
deep
That's
connection.
amazing.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
beautiful.
So
And-
that's how I got that book, and again, it took all of these things. It took the prayer, it took the diligent seeking of spirituality and finding myself again, and living how I wanted to live, and living my truth, if you will.
Right.
It took all of that. It took me working with the life coach, the energy lady that I work with. It took all of that for me to get to where I was able to help other people. And,
Wow.
you have to help yourself
Yeah.
first.
Yes.
And I just wanted to pay it forward. And I literally got back. I went to Hawaii last year. I got back in July, and these books were in my driveway in the boxes. And I was like, I felt like I think every author, and I just came from Pennsylvania where I do a little writer's retreat, and oh my gosh, they're close to my heart. But I'll tell you what, every writer loves their work. But I felt like I had done something that I could now, if I pass over now, it's like, okay, I've done something I came here to do.
Understand.
Yes.
You know,
Understand.
we all want
Yes.
something like that,
Yes.
and I had
Well,
that with this.
And
or anything that had to do
Yeah.
with a true story, I read it.
Sure.
And that same section on the bottom shelf was a big spined book called The Verbally Abusive Man. And I just went, no.
It was
and it was
put there
like,
for
yes.
you.
She said she's had people, Patricia Evans said she's had ladies tell her that when they went to the library, that the book has actually jumped out at that, like fell out,
So
like
she
fell
has,
out.
she
Mine
has a
didn't.
very
amazing.
deep
That's
connection.
amazing.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
beautiful.
So
And-
Yes.
that's how I got that book, and again, it took all of these things. It took the prayer, it took the diligent seeking of spirituality and finding myself again, and living how I wanted to live, and living my truth, if you will.
Right.
It took all of that. It took me working with the life coach, the energy lady that I work with. It took all of that for me to get to where I was able to help other people. And, you know, you have to help yourself
Yeah.
first.
Yes.
And I just wanted to pay it forward. And I literally got back. I went to Hawaii last year. I got back in July, and these books were in my driveway in the boxes. And I was like, I felt like everybody. I think every author. And I just came from Pennsylvania, where I do a little writers retreat. And oh my gosh, they're close to my heart. But I'll tell you what, every writer loves their work. But I felt like I had done something that I could now, if I pass over now, it's like, okay, I've done something I came here to do.
Understand.
Yes.
You know,
Understand.
we all want
Yes.
something like that,
Yes.
and I had
Well,
that with this.
And that's another one of my huge beliefs in the whole thing is we're only here as long as we're supposed to be. And we are only in people's lives for as long as we're supposed to be, whether it be a 5-minute hi, hello, how are you? We're supposed to cross their path.
Right.
And I mean, I've had several incidences in my life. I won't go on, we're interviewing you. But, where that has been absolutely 100% true. But I've known from an early age. I think the first time I spoke to the spirit in my mother's house, I was probably about 12. So I always knew there was something a little different, and people always could feel something around me. And I was working at grocery stores, and I would just the way I would say to people, "Hi, how are you today?" All of a sudden, people are pouring out all this information to me, and their husband or wife or whoever is standing there going, "Why are you telling her all that?" And I'm like, "It's okay. It happens all the time to me. It was normal."
People
And-
do pick up, I told you I was at the Mothman Festival a month ago, and I had a gentleman come up that used to be a football coach of my older sons, and he said, "There's something different about you." And I knew he wasn't talking about the way I looked. I mean, I don't look that much different. But he said, there's something about you that's different. And when you inherently change, and not the superficial changes.
No.
When you really, really change to the core, people see it. They feel it.
Yeah.
They might not be able to understand it, and they might not still want to be around you. But,
Right.
but they can tell, and you feel it yourself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was just very thankful for the whole experience. I've had many people say, "Well, wasn't that scary, and what would you go through all that again?" And absolutely, 100%, without a doubt, I would go through all of it again.
Sure.
Because
You
if
wanna
I wouldn't,
find out.
I wouldn't,
Yeah.
where would I be? In the same position,
Right.
going around in circles, doing the same
Yeah.
thing I'd always done, and getting the same responses that I'd always gotten. That's where I would be. And I think that's actually Einstein's theory of insanity, right? Doing the same thing and
thing over
expecting a
again.
different result. And wow, I mean, that's where I would be. So I wouldn't
Wow.
change a thing. Not a
Amazing.
thing.
And
You know.
apparently they were pulling you to
Yes.
Right,
this.
Yes.
Do you believe in the past life regression?
I have had one.
Okay.
I did experience one. I didn't used to believe in past lives.
Okay.
However, I do now because I do. I feel that energy does go on.
Okay.
It just changes form, and I look at energy different than I used to. And I've had many. For instance, I had a honeymoon in Ireland 2 years ago, and there was a deja vu experience there of feeling like I'd been with that person there.
That's
And
deep.
when you have those,
Yes.
and I know deja vu is for everybody probably different. We don't know. When you describe deja vu, you can't experience that for someone else.
No.
But you get the idea that it's something that you've done before. And I've had so many of those. And during the past life regression, that was very interesting that you asked that because it was something that seemed very real. And I did remember being someone else. And it does change you. I think when you can. When you can remember those times, I wish I could remember all the lessons, but, without maybe getting drenched. But I do believe in past lives, yes. Now, so a lot of my philosophy, I guess, on, if you want to call it that, on life and death is changed.
Okay.
I used to lay in my bed at night and just be scared to die. I really was. As a child, you think, oh gosh, and my grandfather passed away when I was 16.
Yeah.
Well, my sister was 16. I was 19. And it was frightening to think, oh my gosh, where am I going to be then? And he actually came and sat on my bed. He came back, and that's one of those times. I don't see spirits like that usually, but he did.
Right.
It reminds me, when my grandmother passed away, I was only 10 years old, and I loved her. She was my favorite and all, and when I lost her, I remember the frightening experience. My parents wouldn't let me go to the funeral to ever say goodbye to her. And I always felt there was a void in my life until I met Mary. And one of her friend's grandmothers passed away, and we said we should pay our respects at the funeral. We sat at the service. She held my hand, and I felt like I finally had the closure.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah,
That's
it's
wonderful.
been very, it's very nice. My energy has calmed him down 100%
Nice.
from what he was, those
Nice.
2 years ago.
Oh, that's nice.
And my family all feel they know like mom's special is what they say. And I've never done the reading up on any of that kind of stuff.
Do you two believe you were here in a past life and you knew each other in a past life?
I've never felt that.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Okay.
I've never gotten that. I've always, like I said, I've always been of the mind that you put in each other's way on purpose.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And the fact that I saw my dad's eyes looking at me rather than Phil's
Yeah.
was quite shaking.
Mm-hmm.
And I wear my pendant with my dad's picture
Yes.
everywhere I go.
Nice.
With
Yeah.
the rose quartz crystal for healing. And I don't have any, I thought I would feel so terrible. My heart is broken, yes, in 1,000 pieces. I can't reach out and hug him anymore. But I know exactly where he is. I know he's with his family and he's at peace.
Exactly.
I have a question for you. When the priests exercise your home, no more negative energy or water or anything like that?
There was no more water.
Okay.
And water was just one of the main. I was actually going to call this wet and wicked, but because there is sex in the book. There's sex and spirits, and it's just because that was the whole story. I had to tell the entire story for you to be able to understand where this woman was coming from. Why was someone so angry with God that they would say this, really hateful, desperate prayer? Okay, so that's why I got into all of that. But as far as the exorcism itself, it was. It wasn't nearly as frightening as when it was in the daytime.
Okay.
It did only take about 15 minutes to perform. But once the water was gone, we actually heard one last splat in the hallway.
Oh.
Okay, which is the portal, I understand now, which is where it came through. That was the first drop.
Yeah.
It was a traditional 2-story home. It was an older home that we'd fixed up. There was our bedroom on one side, my ex-husband's and mine, which was my husband at the time, my 2 boys on the other side. The water started right in the middle of the hallway, in the center of the house.
Wow. That's
Okay,
deep.
and I had said the prayer in the shower.
Wow.
Okay, which was, again, to me, water, which is also emotion. It's the element that is related to emotion.
Sure.
So that portal was closed back up because when he said the prayer, when he said the exorcism prayer, there was a last splat, and it went right back through that same portal that it had dripped on his head
Amazing.
like 2 weeks before that. Now, we did have some other things that went on after that, but it wasn't water.
Okay.
We had a 3-car garage. We had a 2-car garage that were detached from the house, but they were right there close. Those were not blessed or exorcised because there was no reason to.
Okay.
In the story, I do condense time frame, by the way, just to keep the story moving. But actually, it was several months later before in those garages we had in locked garages, we had tires busting.
Yeah.
And my older son would know that there was something out there, and he would go running through the house. Literally, he would sense it. He would go running, and by this time, I knew, okay, I'm just running behind him because I know that he's onto something. And he would go out, and we would unlock the garage, and you'd still hear the air coming out of the tires that had just been sliced.
And how old was he at that time?
And this is with a police car usually parked in the driveway, keep in mind.
Wow.
In a small town that normally, for the most part, I'd say 98% of the time, nobody messed with us at any rate.
Right.
And with most police that way in small towns. But yes, what was the question?
How old was your son?
My oldest one was 12, so he was just going through,
Just
the puberty.
starting the puberty
Yes.
thing, and that's when, they pick up a lot of energy.
I understand that now.
Yes, and young children, babies.
My youngest
animals.
one was 7, and he was the one who would see all sorts of things. He would see the lights. He would call me in his room. One night, his bed was positioned so that you could see into the hallway.
Right.
Well, he had this, Mom, that the one I knew, okay, something's in there.
Right.
So I would go in. Of course, his door was open. His TV was on because he couldn't sleep without it being that way. I come in, and he says, what did you just walk through? I mean, he's like staring. And I said, what do you mean what I just walked through? He said, he described this tall, dark-robed figure that I had walked out of the hallway and through this figure and into his room. That's not why he had yelled for me. He was yelling for me because he was wanting to know about these Christmas lights. He said, Mom, what are all the, there's lights everywhere in my room. That's what he described them. Little tiny red and green and tiny lights. And one night he saw a heartbeat on the wall.
Oh, boy.
A heartbeat. And at this point, the priest had came with the holy water, and he had done the house blessings. He had given my son the bottle of holy water and said, go ahead, even though you're not Catholic, you can make the sign of the cross and you can spray it. Well, the walls were wet anyway. We had to repaint the whole house. But there were stains, from the water. So he would just toss it around and do his thing. But the one night there was a circle on the wall, and he said it was a heartbeat. Well, I said, what do you mean a heartbeat? Like, I'm thinking a heart actually pumping.
Pulsing.
He says, no, like grandma, when she was in the hospital, the monitor. He drew the monitor. It was a heartbeat like this.
Wow.
And he said, I went to make the sign of the cross, and white flakes fell from my fingers. Like flakes or feathers or something like that is what he said. And he said they disappeared. He said, what does this mean, Mom? Well, I didn't know what it meant. All I knew was there was, again, something I couldn't explain. And I felt like it was a gift that he had. Yeah. But more than that, I didn't understand at the time. When he did go to do that and make the sign, he said that it turned into a cross. Instead of the heartbeat, it would turn into a white cross in a circle.
Okay.
So a lot of things like that were definitely going on. But the garages with the tires busting happened after the house was exorcised.
Question, did you ever do any background research on how old your house is? Was there
We
another
actually
house
knew-
before yours there?
This house was built by the people who we bought it from. They had lived there for most of their married life. They had actually moved behind us and built a house. They were an older couple, and they had never had any experiences there. I actually asked them before. They both passed away several years after. We lived there for probably, like I said, 8 years before.
Right.
Interesting, the insurance company we had at the time, I contacted them because we couldn't get anything figured out, So this was before the priest came. So I call them and I say, we've got all this water in our house. What do we do? We've called the plumbers. We've had the electricians in. We've had literally the heating and cooling people because they were telling us it was condensation.
Right.
I said, does condensation have power behind it? Spray? They're like, no, I know what condensation is. In your refrigerator with the little, your Tupperware things, it's dripping. It's not spraying. So they had to come out and see it for themselves. Well, when the insurance company sent some people out, they sent people out and they checked out everything, and they had this little meter that they put on the wall that tells how much dampness is. I understand it measures back into the wall and measures dampness. Okay. And the one guy said it on the wall, and he looked at the other two guys. it's reading 0, and it was so moist in there you could see the water. I mean, it looked creepy when you pull in the front and you'd see the windows steamed up. There was obvious moisture in this house, and it was reading 0.
That's frightening.
Which was weird.
Wow.
Yes, but
Yeah.
the insurance company paid for the carpet. I told the insurance company I had to call. We had to file a claim, okay, to get people to come out.
Okay.
So we filed the claim, and then I called and I said, okay, I'll tell you what we did, and I don't expect any money, but we don't have a water leak anymore. And the guy on the other end, okay, well, what did you do? I said, we called a priest. I said, all we need is new carpet in the kitchen, because the carpet in the kitchen had gotten wet and had a little pad under it, And I said, other than that and some paint, that's all we need. But I said, the priest fixed it. We have no water pipes that we had to replace, nothing like that. And he says, you know what? I believe you, and I'm going to send you them. They cut us a check, and I think it was like $800 for carpet and paint, because he said he grew up in a house that was haunted, and he said he believed me.
Oh my goodness.
That's pretty
Yes.
good.
That's amazing.
That was
That's really interesting.
And did you have a paranormal team come in and investigate?
We did not have a paranormal team. I was not. I wasn't even thinking that way at the time.
Okay.
I was day to
Boy,
day.
you-
I was working, trying to.
Trying to deal
You
with
asked
all
about the
that.
water earlier.
Yeah.
We would take towels. And we would, once it would, fly across the room, we had hardwood floors and some rugs. We would just mop it up with
Wow.
that. And, just kept kind of washing the towels. That's how we handled it.
Okay.
It was in every room in the house. It literally was. It would come into every room, and the closet spray through. But we did see it finally. My sister was there one evening with some friends that had stopped by, and we actually, for the first time and it had been almost the 2 weeks before we had seen where it was coming from. It came from the air. Okay, so if you can imagine, there's an invisible pocket of water here. Okay, and that's where it came from. We saw it shoot from literally nowhere. It wasn't coming from a wall or from a ceiling. It was coming from the air, and it shot across the room and sprayed my sister's pants.
Wow.
Yeah, and she did come back after that for cookies. I survived
I
her.
don't know if I would.
Wow, I would have been gone. I would have been gone like the
Yeah, me
wind.
too.
We would have never not be back
I
there.
would, see, I'm the type of person, I would have sat there and said, don't tell me that. To whoever.
Well, as you can tell, I have an odd sense of humor. I
Yes.
mean, I'm laughing about a house exorcism.
Yeah.
So my
Yes.
publicist had said to me at one point, he said, Michelle, I don't know how to market you. This is like, it's like Shades of Ghost, That's what he called it, Shades of Ghost.
Sci-fi
This would be
comedy
a great
drama.
movie.
Yeah.
This would be a great movie.
It would be a great movie. It has all the elements for sure.
Exactly.
Yes. But it is humorous at times too, because I have an odd
Yeah.
sense of humor. Humor helped me through that. For
Amen.
sure.
It's a good thing. Yeah.
I mean, I survived, so I'm happy.
Being that you
it.
brought up religion, may I ask what religion you are now?
I'm no religion
Oh,
now.
okay, okay.
I'm not. I go walk in the woods and I pray.
Okay.
And I pray literally. I live in a state of prayer. I live
Okay.
in a state of love and praise and gratitude for
Okay.
every single thing. I really do. For every person, and even the challenges that are in my life, I am thankful for them, because if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be growing, and I wouldn't learn how to handle things differently.
Before this experience, were you an optimistic person?
I'd like to think I was, but looking back, I can see where I would get in that grind of negativity. And,
Okay.
When you're around certain people
Yes.
that bring in negativity,
Yeah.
if you don't stop that thought and create your own reality of positive, thinking, you get sucked in. And
Yeah.
I was definitely sucked in, although I would say overall
that
I was
bug that's flying
overall
around.
I know, it's all right.
I had friends, we have
Maybe
at least it's not water.
there could be, somebody visiting and
True,
listening in,
because he
so.
kept flying around this area right
Yes.
now. And I was like, what is that? That's
The
never
ladies-
happened ever on the show.
The ladies at lunch that walked over and sat with me,
Yeah.
they walked back over to their table as I was picking up my stuff, and the one lady said, I wondered where all that water, because they were having drops of water that were falling on, they didn't know where it was coming
Wow.
from during and they
Wow.
still didn't. They
Yeah.
were looking up like, I still don't know where that water was
That's
coming
funny.
from. So
Okay.
I don't know,
That's
but no,
neat.
there's nothing with me anymore.
Okay.
If there's something there, it has to do with something other than me. But there is, of course, there's power with words and
Okay.
with the book, I believe.
Yeah.
That's good.
But
That's good.
in a positive way.
That's good. How can people contact you if they'd like to purchase this book?
Well, they can go on reignnoevil.com,
Okay.
and that is my website. They will ship from my distributor. They can also get it on Kindle.
Okay.
And Barnes and Noble. They can order online, Amazon.
Okay.
It's available in all those venues. So local bookstores in my area, of course, West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, have some of them. But in general, Amazon and readnoevil.com is the best place to find it.
Wow.
Great. And do you want people to contact you on social media as well to talk to you about?
That would be wonderful. Yes, I'm definitely on Facebook and Twitter and
Okay.
and all of that. And I, of course, with the life coaching, I have ladies that get in touch with me there and want to
Okay.
talk to me. So I'm enjoying
Wow.
sharing what I can.
Wow, you know, I had an experience happen to me once. I'm from the Jewish faith, and I'm pretty involved in it, as Mary could tell you. In fact, we observe the Sabbath and all the holidays. In fact, I help run the service. And it was during the holiest day of the year. It was during Yom Kippur. And my mother-in-law had passed away the year before. And we have a special service that we do on Yom Kippur for the memorial of close family and friends. That I even add her father in now when I announce the names.
Now he's family.
Oh,
My mother-in-law had passed away the year before, and it was like a year to the date. And we were doing this service where we do personal prayers, and then we do public prayers during it. And I felt her walk up to me. She had a green dress on. And she said to me, I really had to go. That's, you know, and that's what she actually took my hands and said, I really have have
That's deep. That's very
my
deep.
goodness.
It really is.
It
yes.
is when you can sense it. And I know
Yeah.
my grandmother, my mother's mother, I was very close with. And when she passed away, I would pray to her. And growing up Pentecostal, and I'm not trying to isolate that religion, but I did
Right.
grow up that way. And we were taught many things that I now look at very differently.
Yeah.
You know, for instance, talking to the dead. I never sit around and did it. I never did a seance or anything.
Right.
But after my grandmother passed away, it was right before. It was about probably 6 years before my book came out. And I would ask her for help with my marriage and just help with things. And it felt so natural for me to ask her for help. And then that was one thing that I did like about the Catholic Church is they very much they advocated for praying for intercessory prayer, praying to past loved ones, to saints, to Mother Mary, to ask for them to pray for you. It wasn't their power. And a lot of people misunderstood. I know I did. I always misunderstood that before I became Catholic. I didn't understand that they weren't praying to Mother Mary, that they were actually just asking her for help, like I was asking my grandmother for help.
Right.
So it just seemed, natural.
Oh, see, I'm a Methodist, so I don't, I've never done anything with the Catholic religion, and I've never really done anything with the Jewish religion either, although there's a lot of things in the Jewish culture that Phil could tell you. I know a lot of different things. I've studied different religions.
Right.
And, so my religion, we just, know that if you need something, you have faith that that person you need to help you
Yeah.
is going to give you an answer. And so far in the 2 years since my dad's passed, any decisions, anything that I've done, I have never gotten a negative response from. But I know if I do, it's because he feels it is not the right thing to do. But I have felt the push and the positive of doing it. The number one thing was going out and buying my car with inheritance money. And he was walking with Phil and I when I went to get that car.
Nice.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he brought us right
Help
to
from
that
the other
car.
side. I know my grandmother helps me with my writing, and I feel her presence.
That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting because she never read or wrote
Oh,
much
that's
other than
interesting. Oh, that's
she would write
beautiful.
letters to her friends, old-fashioned writing
Okay,
letters.
yeah.
There was no texting back then, and Grandma wouldn't have been texting anyway. But I know that she helps me, so it's very interesting.
Do you think she's putting ideas into your head, or do you think she's working right straight through and having you put it on the paper? Or is she giving you the ideas, or as you write,
she
you think
is,
she's guiding your hand?
I think she's guiding me. Yes, I think she's guiding me. And I feel like I was really destined to have the people that were placed in my life. And I've got all these Mikes, okay? So my dad's name is Mike, and of course
that's
I'm
sweet.
Michelle, which and Archangel Michael. I pray to him and ask for his intercession all the time. But I had my web guy's Mike, my publisher's Mike, my publicist was Mike. I mean, I have Mikes
amazing.
literally everywhere. And the gentleman who did the cover of this book, and I know you can see it, I said no blood on the cover. This is not a horror story. Yes, it's Halloween, and yes, it's spooky, but it's not a horror story. It's really an inspirational story. But I took a picture of water and sent it to the guy who did this. And the guy who did this was in the movie Evan Almighty.
Okay.
His name's Courtney Skinner, and he was the guy actually on the Ark, sketching the Ark.
Okay.
So he played in the movie Evan Almighty, and he really got what I wanted. And we decided there was going to be faces in here and an attachment here, of course, of evil with the raindrops. So I love the cover of the book. It really depicted what I wanted. Was just kind of spooky, definitely not a horror story. Inspirational, paranormal, if anything. And I think I created a new genre. Did I not just do that? Inspirational, paranormal. I like it. I like it. Yeah, thank you. I don't know. So thanks, Grandma. You know.
When I first saw the cover of this too, I thought of it. I'm like, okay, I don't know if it's a scary story or not, but it certainly looks like a book that people would pick up and look for inspiration.
Thank you.
That's what it looks like.
There
the
is a
blue
book trailer.
And the greens, and they're very inspirational.
I have a question. Excuse me. Is this the demon that
That
you
is the
saw
demon.
in the mirror?
It's
This is the guy?
It is very close. I picked up I looked on the internet to find a picture that was close enough to this
Okay.
that I felt was spooky. But again, I mean, you could tell he's bad.
Sure,
right? It's a bad
yeah.
news, but it's not over the top scary.
Right.
No, what I saw in my mirror was over the top scary. I mean, when you see your face and it's fused with a demon's face.
Oh my God.
Okay, so I was looking into my own eyes in the mirror. Yes, I still have that mirror because I realized now
you kept it?
I have the mirror because I closed that portal.
Okay.
I
It wasn't in the
understand.
mirror.
Right.
Okay.
It was. It's just what I saw. But I was looking into my eyes in that mirror. But I was also looking at the same time into a demon's eyes.
Wow.
Now, and yes, keep in mind, I was not possessed. There is a difference. So I didn't know at the time that I even had the attachments when I saw that. When I saw the demon in the mirror, was about 2 weeks before this water started.
Wow.
Interesting, yes.
Oh.
But I didn't know I had the attachments to me until after everything had happened at the house and I went to the energy lady in Charleston, West Virginia. That's when I had the attachments removed, the majority of them anyway, from my field and even your auric field now. Scientists, and I'm definitely not a scientist, but I do like the abstract concepts of science that describe how your auric field is actually there, and Carillion photography. You can actually Google that and you can pull it up, and there's actual legitimate scientists that say, yes, we have an energy field, yes, we have an aura. And that's important to some people to be able to validate, yes, that's actually happening, because as you know, you
Otherwise,
can't
you think
explain
you're
things.
crazy. Wait, why does this person look more bluish to me? Or why do I see red around them? Or,
Exactly.
and I used to, be like, okay, I know I'm a very open person, and I always have an open mind. But to be so open as to have strangers on the street even walk up to me and just start pouring out their hearts to me and what's going on. And Phil's seen that. We were at a picnic at the Reno Fest.
Yes.
And he was talking to a woman, and I do a little healing. And she was like, oh, really? And she wanted me to heal her. And I grabbed her in my arms, and the way I do is I just hug her and I tell her, look, these things that are bothering you are eventually going to go away and whatever. So she had called me the next couple days later. She did call me and was thanking me because she said, I didn't know you were there. She said, but I felt something when I walked into the backyard. She says, I felt a presence there. So I didn't know who it was until Phil introduced me to her. Because he was telling her all about our show, which he does all the time, which is great.
Yeah, it sounds like you've kind of learned how to heal. I mean, you don't have to have a traditional method I mean, if you know what
No.
you're, it comes, like you said, it comes from the heart. It really
does.
I mean,
It
you can heal
does.
people just by talking to them, just by touching them.
Absolutely.
Without doing a traditional Reiki or whatever. My mother, for instance, she is very healing. I did Coast to Coast that night, a 2-hour interview from 3 to 5 in the morning, and I knew that there were going to be 3 million people hearing me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a little unnerving given the fact that I used to have panic attacks talking in front of peers because of the situation I was in with the verbal issues and
Sure.
and trying to work through all that. But I did it, and that it brought up a lot of things. As you know, when you talk about certain things, it'll bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so sick when I woke up that morning. I had slept in a little bit. It was like 9:30, and I literally was so. And I don't get sick very often. I mean, I really don't get sick. I crawled to my mom's bathroom. I was at her house. In Ohio. I crawled to the bathroom, and I really wanted to just heave. I wanted to heave, and I couldn't. I went back in, I laid on the couch, and I put a pillow on my belly, and I'm laying there, and my mom walks through, and she says, "Oh, you're not feeling very good, are you?" And I went, "No." And she came over to me. She taps my head, okay? She walks in the kitchen, makes coffee. She comes back through about 10 minutes later. I literally was 70%. I could sit up. 10 minutes later, I said, "Mom, you know, you just came over when you prayed for me, didn't you?" And she goes, "Yes." She'd never done that type of tapping. She doesn't do. She just said that's what she felt to do.
was
She came
compelling.
over and did that. She just followed her heart, and she helped to heal me by just doing something from the heart. So I think that's a lot of times we underestimate ourselves.
Oh, yes.
This
and our
past summer,
power.
Yes.
I had a life-threatening experience with my heart, and I had to go in the hospital, and they had to stop my heart and restart it and reset it again. I was so scared. They let Mary into the procedure room and let her stay with me till they were going to put me out. And she knew how scared I was, and she said, she's holding my, everything's going to be fine. I'll see you, soon as it's done.
Yeah.
And
He calmed right down the minute I touched him.
Good.
And his wife was there too. And I felt like, I really can't get in the middle of this marriage thing. It's like, okay, let's bring your mistress and your wife to
the hospital.
So
if there's a fight, we're in good hands, right?
Right. So, I mean, I'm not his mistress. Please, not by any chance. But, I mean, the fact that I have this love for him and he feels comfortable enough to just let it all pour out.
yeah,
I think you two have a beautiful relationship. I enjoy watching you
I was
two.
going to say, you've
Yeah.
witnessed it.
Oh, yeah, it's
Yeah,
awesome.
in a short time.
Their TV show, that's the one I was talking about
Yes.
tonight. They have a fantastic cable TV show, and they just radiate off of each other.
That's
They're like
awesome.
beams of light, and I brought all my friends up there one day, and we were all just watching, and I mean, these two are awesome. I like their energy. It's positive, it's
yes.
uplifting, it's
Because-
supportive.
Because my mother's gone, and I really miss her. And even though Mary's older than me, I had to
Younger.
come to her. And I really feel like she's protecting me.
That's
I
nice.
feel that way
Right.
too. Like, she's giving me the protection that my mother would give me.
Well, there's something I learned when I was a child. I was in a very horrible, negative energy. And we're Catholic. We're devout Catholics. I don't even pierce the ears. We don't believe in impaling. So I kept the tradition of the parents. And I had Catholic uncles and stuff like that in the past. So it was working for me. It still works for me. But there was a teacher that came into my life, someone like you, very spiritual, in high school, and she taught me metaphysical science, and she taught me how to protect myself from very evil people. And I can do it to this day. And I'm never touched by anything evil because I know she taught me the science. And a lot of people say, "Oh, that's evil. That's evil," and it's not.
It's nice.
Right.
All of our ancestors used it
That's
all
right.
over the world.
That's right.
The
Well, it's
ruins and everything is part of that metaphysical science. So it's an awesome science that everyone should learn to
It's similar
protect
to
themselves.
smudging and saging. When you would use the word smudge or sage, when I probably didn't even hear that until I was well in my teens. But that was bad. That was we were
right.
taught that was
That was bad.
evil.
That was
It
evil.
witchcraft.
Yes.
It was New Age. Well, there's nothing new about New Age.
And I have a question for you. If anyone has experienced anything like this, what do you suggest they should do? if there's something like this happens to them in their home?
Well, I would say it's going to depend on the person, because I actually, when I realized what it was, when I was given the revelation, I went to the house when no one was there. It was completely empty so that I could go through and pray my prayer. I pled the blood of Jesus like I'd learned from when I was 7 years old at Pentecostal church.
Okay.
And it did not work for me.
Okay.
And I say that because I want people to understand that it's not necessarily about the religion. I don't think it's that Jesus didn't make it leave for me because he couldn't make it leave. It's just that I wasn't in the right place.
Right.
So I had to experience. He wanted me to feel it and to experience the whole thing and be humbled and get to a place so I could learn what to do and how to do it.
Okay.
So I would suggest that they try to pray it out. I mean, that would be my first step. Whatever, whoever they pray to, whatever angelic bodies that they want to call in, whatever higher power that person believes in, to call that higher power in and pray for it to leave. That would be the first step for me. And saging, using the sage. I actually did a YouTube video on saging to show people how to do it. It's very brief, but there's a lot of that stuff that's not out there, and some of it's too on the new agey side that the mainstream doesn't want to where they're not exposed to it, or they won't click into it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I did do that, but that would be the first step. And then I do know now that it doesn't take a Catholic priest, although I'm very thankful that mine was the one that did it. There are a lot of energy healers who will do that. There are people who will sage, will come and sage your house, will come and clean it for you.
Yes.
I actually had a lady offer to do that, and at the time I was way too lyric. No, she actually asked me if my older son, who, like you said, she was going through puberty, and she said that energy of the hormones, the hormones are in such flux that they actually are stimulating a lot of these realms.
I was going to ask, did you notice, because you didn't know that there was any kind of demons or anything like that, but since your son was starting to go through puberty, that I think that kind of probably helped open a portal.
It probably, between my prayer and him going at the age
and
he
you
was.
were going through a hard time with your husband at
and
the
my
time.
husband's the job and the different the negative energies, like you
all
said,
those
that can come with
negative
people.
energies when they combine together in the house.
Oh, there was electric in the
especially when
house. You
yes.
could feel it, and it was just you. As soon as certain people would walk through the door, I could feel it. If I wasn't even, I could be upstairs and I would just, you could just, like, you know what I mean. But I definitely would go that route. And this cleaner, the house cleaner, as she called herself, I was referred to her, but I didn't take her up on it because I was too scared of branching out and trying anything new. At the time, I was. And so I did not ask her to come. But she would have done it. She did ask me about my older son's birthday. And his birthday, he actually falls in, he's a Cancer. Which, yes. So it fell into that sign. And so we did get into that a little bit. But again, I was too scared too.
It's interesting. Yeah. And sometimes when people come in and they want to offer that to you, you feel like, all right, well, if I do that, is it going to make the problem better? Or is it going to...
I got to the point where I thought, what have I got to lose? No, really, what have I got to lose at this point? I've got to do something.
I just want to thank all of you for coming on the stage today. This is an awesome, awesome conversation.
Thank you.
And everyone can check out the archive on www.rocklandworldradio.com or the Lena Shockley Youthology Hour. This is also going to be on Mr. Phil's show at one time, and people can check it out as well.
Yes.
Over 8 million cable viewers, okay?
Yes.
And definitely contact Michele if you need a life coach or if you'd like to purchase her book.
I have a website too called verbalabusementor.com. And that's how you can best get in touch with me if you're interested in those type of services, verbalabusementor.com. And then, of course, there's reignnoevil.com for the book. And there is a book trailer out there. There's a book trailer on YouTube if you'd like to see a 2-minute clip of what it's about.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, everybody.
Yes.
Thank you for
you.
having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, have a great night.
Yes.
It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldRadio.com